Welcome to this session called Unleashing Your Potential. Oh man, if there's ever a person that can help you unleash your potential, if you are a budding writer, there's only one person I'll have in this call and no one else but Kim Vermaak, the Mindset Whisperer. Hello, Kim. Nice to have you on.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Fantastic. Well, obviously, you are not a stranger to the writing of books. You have written several books. In fact, you tell them, I think it's 7 in total, even more.
Yeah, it's actually, if you include the ebooks, I've got 12 titles at the moment, and I'm busy writing another 3 as well.
Fantastic. Well, that's why we can take the lead from you. So what I would like today to do, Kim, is to add value to those people who would like to write a book. Obviously, people say to themselves, can I write a book? Is it in me? But I do believe that in every single individual, there is a book within them. It's inside them. It is latent. It just has to come to fruition. But it takes experienced people like yourself to say, where do you start? Let's say there's a person that's sitting across of you in a coffee shop and says, Kim, help me. I've always been thinking of writing a book. I do not know where to start. What would your first words to them be?
Well, this is actually something that I usually work on in my discovery calls. I have a 30-minute discovery calls with new authors, and I always ask them the same kinds of questions. The first one is, who is the book for? So sometimes we focus on what's inside us, what we want to get out, but you essentially, the people who are going to buy the book and going to read the book, those are the people whose thoughts I'm quite interested in. So we kind of reverse engineer it. We're not starting with you. We're starting with who the ideal person is that you're wanting to read your book. So I often work with nonfiction authors, and the first thing that I would say to them is, what value is your book going to give to your audience? What problem is it going to be solving? Because when you pick up a book, you're always looking to solve a problem. How do I rear my children in an AI world? How do I sell better? How do I become a better speaker? We're always looking for problems that we're wanting to solve. Even if your book is a fiction book, you're still solving a problem. You're solving the problem of the person is bored, or they're liking a certain kind of read and they haven't been able to find a new book on that topic. So you always start with what you are bringing to the world, who your ideal audience is. Sometimes they get a little bit stuck on that, and then particularly if this is a business book that's add on to what you're already doing, then I would say, who are your clients that are you're currently invoicing, the people you're currently dealing with, what problems they have, what questions are they really asking you, problems that you can solve. That is a really good indication on where to start with writing your book.
Wonderful. So now the person says, yes, I've decided I'd like to write a book on parenting, but I don't know how thick the book must be. I don't know how many words it should be. How do I go about sort of deciding where I peg in the market? I'm a first-time entry author. I obviously don't know a lot. That's why I'm consulting with you today. So what would you do in taking them to the next step?
Okay, firstly, I wouldn't worry too much about how many words it is. Having said that, you can start with anything from 45,000 words going up, and there are different genres that absorb different number of pages. So one of the things you can do is you could go onto Amazon, you could have a look at the top sellers in your particular industry, and you could say, what are their books like? How big are those books? Not every book from your favorite author, but on average, if you take the top 10 bestsellers on Amazon, because Amazon actually will tell you how many pages the book is, and that will give you an indication. The average person who likes to buy these books, those books are typically 200 pages or 150 pages, or it's just an ebook. And that will give you a little bit of a guide. But it's really difficult to just get stuck on the words, because when you do that, then it becomes a much bigger problem. So if I was to say to you, you're going to have to write a 67,000 word book. The average person is going to say, that's so many words. I can't even imagine writing so many words. But when I do my book coaching with my clients, we do a writing speed test. So some people will say, oh, it's like being at school again. No, it's not. What it is that we're pacing you to see how many words you can type in a 15-minute space. And when we look at the 15-minute space, we say, okay, this is how much I can do in 15 minutes. How many words can I do in a half an hour? And we expand those half an hours. We say 4 days a week. If you are writing what the average author writes, the average new author writes in those speeches, if you were doing that 4 times a week, every single month, you would come to your 67,000 words within 6 months. And that's really how I design my coaching programs, that it is a comfortable pace. Now, having said that, it's not just about writing words. It's what goes on inside here. And that is where the average person gets. They've got, like those little cartoons that we used to watch when we were kids, and a little devil sitting on the side and a little angel sitting on that side, and then they're all talking to you at the same time. Yeah. And whoever's the loudest, that's the one you listen to. So our self-limiting beliefs are sitting like that. And so that's why, besides the word count, know who your target audience is, realize that if that has not disappeared from your heart, the dream hasn't disappeared from your heart, you're probably meant to write that book, and your biggest job is going to be managing those little voices so that you're listening to the right voice.
Well, if the person's in front of you and you basically ask the question, why do you want to write that book? And the one person says, I want to write it because I want to make money. And the other one says, I've got a message I believe that can help the world. How would you guide them through those two equations?
If you're wanting to make money on the book, then you have to be very strategic with your book. So you've got to say, this is who I am. Now, sometimes people are shifting. They might be in a business here. They don't want to be in that business anymore. They're actually wanting to shift. I would say treat the book as a business. And as you know from a couple of different businesses, even in network marketing, they always say, if you treat it like a business, it will pay you like a business. So it means you have to have a strategy in place, and you have to have the stamina for it. Because a traditional business, we only evaluate whether it's successful or not successful after 5 years, because you have such a high failure rate in those first 5 years. So if you are going to judge your book by the first 6 months, the first 12 months, and you haven't really implemented any kind of strategy, then you're doing yourself and you're doing the book a disservice. So treat it like business. Have a strategy in place. Have advisors that are going to help you along the journey, and don't quit. That is the way that you're going to make money with it, and integrate it into your business structure. For the people who are saying they want to make a difference in the world and just want to get the book out there, I have to try and pull in the business side as well. Mm-hmm. Because some people are saying, I'm not in it to make money. But the fact is that money pays for the promotions, the advertising, the proofreading, all of those kinds of things, the cover design. Money pays for that. So if you do not have an appetite for making money, you could always spend the money in that area, and you can donate the proceeds of the book if that's what you choose. But at the end of the day, sales is an indication of the number of people that you've helped. So if you're not making any sales, you're not helping anyone, unless you are just simply giving the book away for free.
Okay. Now, obviously, I have so many people that start very nervously. Oh, no, I'm just going to write it to help people and start giving it away. And then they realize, but hold on, this is costing me money. It took me my time to write the book. I had to go through the printing cost. And then all of a sudden, hold on, I'd at least like to break even. So when it comes to the term of budgeting, where do you start? What are the recommendations or the considerations in terms of starting to write this book?
Okay, so when you're starting out writing, there are no costs. It's just an idea, it's just a concept. But what you do need to look at is you do need to decide, are you going to be doing traditional publishing or are you going to be doing independent publishing? Now, with traditional publishing, that is the way, when we say traditional publishing, it's what we all think of. We think of someone pays you for your manuscript, you get royalties. Some people think, oh, well, now it's easy street. It's not easy street. The traditional publishers only have a certain budget, and they're only going to spend it on the authors that they feel they're going to get the best return on investment of. So they typically would want you to have a newsletter, to have a following, social media. They would want you to already bring that to party, because someone who already has a brand name, it's easier to market their book. So you would then produce a manuscript, you would do a pitch to a traditional publisher. And I have to caution that this is quite an emotional kind of thing. People will say, my book just can really help so many people. But again, looking at your target market, that traditional publisher, what is their niche? What kinds of books do they sell? Do they have a category that you would already fall into? Or is there some brand new concept that no one has actually heard of and they can't put you in a specific niche? With those kinds of traditional publishers, if they reject you, it doesn't mean that your book is terrible. What it means is that you haven't targeted the correct publisher, and it could mean that you have to go it alone and do an independently published book. Now, if a traditional publisher works with you, you don't have any cost that you have to cover. And I have to stress this because you get some publishers, which we call vanity publishers. You pay for the production of the book. They have the distribution rights and they've got absolutely no incentive to market that book whatsoever. A traditional publisher pays all of those costs, and after they've recouped their costs, they pay you. So you get a much smaller percentage of your royalties than if you did it independently, but they manage the distribution and all of that for you, so you don't have those kinds of costs. If you're going to go independent publisher, you are the entrepreneur. You are paying for your cover design. You are paying for the editing. You are paying for the proofreading. You are paying for the formatting of the book. And those can start really adding up depending on the company you're using. And you're still going to have to market the book. But as I say, the vanity publishers, they're going to take all the money that you would have paid as an independent publisher, and then they're going to say, we're going to distribute your book and you will get the royalties afterwards. If you see a contract like that, walk away. Rather say, okay, I'm going to take longer to publish my book. I'm going to save up for all of these things.
Yeah.
And remember, you can write your book, you can get it edited, and then later down the line, you can have cover design done, and later down the line, you can build a marketing budget. You don't have to do it all in the same go if you don't have the financial appetite for it at this juncture, rather than split those costs over time.
So it can be done in stages, is really what you're saying. So for the person, well, obviously we all have our different, what we prefer. But if a person is really a rookie, no idea, would you advise self-publishing or would you advise go to existing publishers?
It's a very, very difficult decision. I would say it would be your appetite for risk. So if you're risk adverse, I would go traditional publisher. However, you still have to go through a sales process. I would still recommend getting at least some basic editing before you do that. Maybe have a consultation with someone who can give you a little bit of guidance. If you can get yourself a book coach, that would be great. And also, besides the appetite for risk, it is also what is unique about you. Remember, when you go traditional publishing, you might have an element in your book that the traditional publishers say, we don't want that there. And because you're in that contract, they've got a right to remove that from your book. So you might feel very, very strongly on a certain point, and they'll just say, sorry, it has to be removed because we don't feel we can sell your book with that kind of messaging in it. So it is quite interesting. The other day I was speaking to a publicist. It's not the publicist that's working on my current client's book. It's another publicist. And she said to me, I will never, ever work with religious books at all. So I said, well, she said, I've got no problem with religion, but I can't sell the books. So I rather steer away to other things. So now when that happens, and you say, but I am hell-bent on writing this kind of book, then you have to say, okay, I want the book to go out there. I am going to make it work. I am going to do the marketing. I am going to research. I'm going to find out how to make it work. I'll send my book to a company that helps me with independent publishing because they will do the book no matter what. Now, having said that, I offer those services, but there are certain books that I will not take. Okay. So if it violates one of our value systems as a company, we would say to, so we won't deal with, erotic fiction or anything like that. I typically would prefer to work with non-fiction authors, but as soon as it falls into that realm, I would then recommend them to go to someone else. So you do have that kind of thing that you've got to choose an independent publishing company that is comfortable with working with the kind of genre that you're writing. And if it steps out of the mainframe, you can still get published, but you've got to start sourcing other suppliers that can assist you.
It didn't even occur to me that there could be a right of refusal. I mean, you're approaching somebody says, yeah, sure, I'll do it for you. And then they look at your content and go, no, I'm not prepared to because this actually clashes with my value system. And therefore, I'm not prepared to do it. I'll be honest with you, when you said to me that you're actually signing the right to them to remove certain parts of the writing per se, in essence, let's say they're like 85% of the book, but they want to remove 15% so that it doesn't clash with the values, but they think that your content is worthy of publishing, it will be a very tough decision. And that's why, for yourself, you're a mentor. And what I hear through what you're saying is having a mentor like you, Kim, is the way to go. And that is to sit with somebody that has got the experience of having written books, several in fact, and to rather pay once off for that input to say, here are the loopholes, these are the pitfalls, and listen, you can go the route and you can lose a lot of money because you are just rushing into it. But there are some considerations. We've just spoken about budget. What about editing? Some people try and put a book out in the market, but didn't pass somebody with editing skills. And then they find out there are so many mistakes in it, they have to go and reprint it anyway. So when you talk about you as a coach, if you just sort of look at the top 5 things to consider, I know we spoke about budgeting, we speak about editing. What are other things that you would bring to the table so that people listening in here say, I want to go to Kim to help me write my book? What are other considerations?
So the first thing that I do is I just need to clarify that I don't write the book for the clients. What I do is, as I said before, and sometimes I massage the book out of the client and sometimes I wrestle the book out of the client. Sometimes they've got so many self-limiting beliefs that you have to actually say, like, actually, you need to get over yourself. In fact, even in my contract, I say that the book is not, or the coaching program is not therapy. I'm not a psychologist. There are some people who not finish their book purely because they have been so indoctrinated with fear-based teachings that they really struggle to release that book. So what I sit with the clients, I give them the accountability, I read through their work, and I start asking them some probing questions. So by the time that manuscript comes out, they give it back to me. One of my clients said that I used her manuscript as a coloring in book. It's all little pictures and errors and what's happening here. And that gives them reader feedback. So I'm not their editor. I give them reader feedback, I ask them questions, and I guide them along the process of preparing this book for launching it into the world. So I've also got a YouTube channel where I interview other authors so that my authors can learn. And I'm always bringing in new content. So if a client brings up a problem inside the book coaching program, I will then unpack that problem in my YouTube channel so that all of the authors can also learn from it as well. Case in point, we have got 3 clients in our program at the moment that are all writing stuff that is factual, and the people that they're writing about are still alive. One lady has already finished her manuscript. She decided to change the names of all of the people so that you would have to personally know her and her story to recognize who it is, but the rest of the world can't tell. Another lady is going through a situation where she's saying, I know I can bring value, but is someone going to sue me because of the content that I put in there? And then there is a third person. It's like really difficult because she went into mainstream media. Someone attacked her reputation. It was an unresolved issue. And she is going to be addressing some of the damage that happened to her because of that. So because these questions are coming up all the time, I will typically turn to an expert that I know. So on the 16th of September, I'm doing a recording. It's going to be live, but it is with a reputation management specialist. And he is going to be chatting to us about some of the things that you need to look out for as an author. He gave a beautiful thing. He said, Kim, just make them write the book, because we can then take it, read it, look through the areas, and you can also send it to an attorney. But if you haven't written the book, we can't advise you on anything. So then the problem is stuck here, and there's no solutions here while you are just like freaked out all the time. So that's part of my journey, is going through that whole business plan, but also giving you feedback, accountability, so we can just get that flippin' manuscript finished.
Get it done. Okay, and then what about disclaimer? Because, people think that putting a little disclaimer in front of the book will actually exonerate them 100%, which I believe is dangerous, because you can still be taken to task even if though you had a generic disclaimer in there, because especially if there's criminal injury of that, you taking a person and you're attacking them. Now, the question would be, let's say you're talking about Joe Blogs, but you actually make the name Joe Bloggies, but it's very, very close, same initials, same name, same surname, but you think your disclaimer is going to protect you. What would you advise the guys that want to have something like that in mind, because they actually have vengeance in their hearts, to be honest, and they want to get back at them? What would you advise?
Sure, it's a very, very difficult one. I would say, it's just like they say, you don't make any decisions when you are in the wrong frame of mind. So I would typically ask my clients, what is the purpose of the story? Are you writing this for yourself? Because sometimes we need to have those first drafts where we get all the toxin out of. But that is not necessarily the book that you are going to be launching. So quite some time ago, I read a book, and it was before I became involved in coaching. I read a book from a young woman who was the sole survivor of a family suicide. And she was not at the place where her father killed, her entire family, even her. I think her brother was 4 years old at the time. She was visiting other family members when this happened. And so he shot the wife, the 2 siblings, and her as well. And himself. And when I read through the first part of the book, it was so powerful the way that she wrote it. I mean, I started crying when she started asking these questions. Did her little brother hide under the bed? Did he run? All of these kinds of questions. And I still I get like gooseflesh when I think about it, because it was so incredibly moving. But later on in the book, she was with family members who were very, very unkind to her, who kind of treated it like it was her fault. And in that, she started putting little messages, like screenshots of cell phone messages that were sent to her. And at that point, I realized that she hadn't dealt with some of those issues that she had. And writing the book, although it was incredibly helpful, there was still so much hurt that was sitting inside there. And I would really say to people that if you are in that space, stop and think. Think of the long term legacy that you're going to be leaving with this book, and ask yourself if the risks are worth it, if the reputational damage to those people are worth it. Because in that situation, the people who have been treating her unkindly were family members of her mother, and they were mourning as well. And sometimes when we're mourning, we act in a really awful way. We lash out, we're in that anger stage. And if you're trapped in the anger stage, you're not going to react in the way that you would under other circumstances. So I know that's not a direct answer to your question because I'm not an attorney. I would always say to my clients, take the book to an attorney, highlight areas, and get proper legal advice for that. But as a human being, as I am going through the book process, I always say stop and think about the long-term implications of publishing it exactly the way it is.
I must say, what I really appreciate is your counsel on setting a good boundary and saying that you are assisting them to write a book to achieve their purpose. However, you're not their counselor. And I must admire the fact that you have separated those two, because those are two independent functions. And that to me gives me such a sense of relief to say, Kim is there to help you write the book. However, if you need to deal with issues, she's going to be professional enough to say, Mr. Joe Blogs, I really feel you need to possibly consider to go and deal with what you're busy with prior to completing your book, and you will actually then farm them and maybe even point them in the direction of somebody that you know. But you're not going to try and be the superhero. You're focusing on what you've been asked to do, and that's to coach them how to write the book. So I just want to give you kudos on that. I'm very proud of you. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Having said that, there's a lot of personal stuff that goes along in that book coaching because we're unpacking things that are deeply hurtful, and I cannot ignore those things. So it's not a complete clean thing. In my contract, it specifies that I am not a therapist, and that I am just giving feedback. But when there are times, one of my clients had to go out and get a restraining order from someone completely unrelated to her book. But when that happened, she had a spike in fear. And so we had to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I had to say, how are you feeling? What happened? Could this possibly be a trigger? Because I now intimately know something about her book. I intimately know something about her. So you cannot completely divorce it, but is there that full clear thing that you have to have look at a therapist if this situation is going to trigger you. I had another client write a deeply painful thing, and one of the things that I had to say to her is, I'm going to ask you to write this. It's going to trigger you. I want to know before you start writing it what self-care options you've got available. What are the things that make you feel good? And then she said to me, oh, well, she's going to go for a walk with the dogs. So I said, okay, if it's raining and you cannot go for a walk with the dogs, what will you do then? So I want a plan of action from them to say, this is how I'm going to deal with these really difficult things that I'm going to be writing. So when you come out on the other side, you're not shattered. You actually have got plans. In fact, one of the things that I do is I've got a reputation with Tim Wagner, who is a breathwork coach. And I organize a free session with him as they're starting to. In fact, you know Tim.
Yes, I do.
So that they to decompress a little bit, that they have a skill going into writing the book. Now, whether they want to continue the journey with him or not is their choice. But at the end of the day, I know those sessions can help people to moderate their stress levels when they are in really difficult situations.
Well, for the person listening in thinking, well, Kim is exactly what I'm looking for, but it always comes up, what is this going to cost? Do you have a scale of tariffs that they can maybe go and see on a website somewhere? How do they know how much it's going to cost them, or is it individual? Please answer that.
Okay, so I do have a standard monthly rate, which I'm not going to mention in this particular session. But what they can do is they can reach out to me on Calendly. So on my website, there is a calendar link. I give a free 30-minute consultation with the author, and we unpack what their vision is for the book, who their target audience is, and then I share all of the costs that are involved with that. But my program is a 6-month program, and it is uninterruptible. So contractually, the client has to pay for all those 6 months, whether they write the book or not.
Okay.
And some people would say, well, how can you do that? But at the end of the day, it's an accountability. So that means that it has to hurt you if you're not going to do the work. So it's the same as buying a gym membership. And if you don't go to gym, it doesn't mean that you can weasel out of the membership. It has to hurt that you're not doing the work. That's why people are coming to me. They have to do the work to get the book done.
Well, I'm highly encouraged for your professional stance on this. And I think that the people listening in will now know that they can approach you and that they will get a free 30-minute discovery call with you. And then all the scale of charges would be made available. But one thing they must know up front is like a gym membership. Once you sign on the dotted line, you pay, whether you write or not. True.
True. And ultimately, it's because I really want the stories to get out there.
Yes.
I've been in that space where I've got a big goal, and then I'm like, yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. Tomorrow always seems to be another day, and days, weeks, months go past. Sometimes people will tell me I've been writing this book for 15 years. And I'm like, unless you are doing some kind of high-level pharmaceutical research for the book, you are not writing a book for 15 years. You are thinking about it.
Exactly.
Just a little bit of a reprieve. Your brain uses 20% of your energy, your daily energy levels. So if you're thinking about writing a book, it can sometimes be confused as actually doing something, because thinking is producing energy. It just doesn't have any results. So please don't wait that long to write the book. Just get it done.
Fantastic. Well, Kim, I want to thank you for your time and this professional input in terms of those who want to write books. I really mean it when I say that I hope that people will get hold of this, get hold of you, that you can help them in their endeavor. And may whatever comes out there add value to society. And that's the reason why I had you on here, because it's about unleashing potential. Your last words on the person is thinking, shall I write the book, yes or no? What's your last word to somebody else?
So quite a few years ago, I had this thing that I read that said, if you have a dream that just pops into your head, like I had a 5-minute fleeting thought that maybe I climb Mount Kilimanjaro because my friend Dorian told me it was a good idea. 1 month down the line, it was no longer my dream. But if you have a dream that keeps on popping up again and again, it's not disappearing, then that means you should be writing that book. Because the worst thing when you finally go to meet your maker is having that regret, the things that we wish we had done that we didn't do. That is the most painful regret there is.
Well, that is beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kim Vermaak, the Mindset Whisperer, author and speaker, and she's available to you. The contact details will be in this article. Until I speak to you next time, to all of you, salute.